Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Real Talk about Real Estate with Peter and Nicole. What's going on, Peter?
Well, if you're renting and you're not building equity and you really want to get into the housing market, we've got a great opportunity for you. We're hosting a first-time buyers webinar on July 8th at 7 p.m. We're going to cover everything from how much money do I actually need to buy a home, what does the financing look like, what kind of benefits are available to me as a first-time buyer, that and all kinds of other subjects. And Alex Jahoitis, the local mortgage broker, she's going to be there to help cover the financing side of things, and she can answer any questions that you have as you kind of get closer to buying your first home. So that's July 8th at 7 p.m. You can click the link below to RSVP or just shoot us a message and we'll add it to the list.
Beauty. Let's roll into some stats, what we've seen week over week. The big news story here is a 34% increase in number of new listings. So that is likely a welcome relief to the buyers out there who've been frustrated with the lack of inventory. Yeah, and activity in general is still very much on fire. If you look at June, the last June compared to June in 2019, showings were up 32%, which is a lot. So it's still rock and rolling with no end in sight. And really, if you're on the fence about selling your home, I would reconsider and just take a look at what's going on in the market, because it's an exciting market. And another interesting point that we came across when looking over the stats was the top 5 most popular price ranges for Hamilton and Burlington. We've seen a bit of a shift where the higher and the more the higher price homes are now entering the top 5 most popular, which is the first time that we've seen that. It's for a number of weeks. So yeah, sort of the dynamics of it is shifting a little bit too.
Yeah, normally it's in that 400 to 500 first-time buyer category that you really see a lot of movement, but it's interesting to see the movement up at those price ranges. Shifting gears, fact or fiction. Nicole, I've got one for you. Spring is the best time to list and sell your home.
I'm going to say this one's a myth, so fiction. The reason I say that is a lot of people think spring is the best time, and that has a large part to do with the fact that the snow is gone, landscaping is sharp, curb appeal, and all that. The trouble with that notion is most homeowners are thinking that way, so that's why we tend to see a spike in inventory come on in the spring, which is great if you're a buyer, more inventory to choose from. But as a seller, you really want to list at a time when there's not a lot of competition, inventory is low, because then you're the one really in the driver's seat. Your turn, fact or fiction. If a buyer wants to get the best deal on a home, they should submit their offer through the listing agent. Not
advised. That is fiction. A lot of people think that by working with the listing agent and having the listing agent double end the transaction, a lot of commission is going to be forfeited and somehow get the buyer a good price. That is true in some cases, but the big issue with that is the listing agent is hired by the seller to represent their interests, and then you come in weeks or months sometimes after they've had a relationship. And if there is some sort of a commission break to help out with the buyer's price, that's usually negotiated ahead of time before you even come into the transaction, and it's generally about 0.5%. If you hire a buyer's agent, which doesn't cost you anything, they can almost always negotiate a better price for you than just a 0.5% commission break. It's really not worth the small money savings to forego any sort of representation, I don't think.
Right, and by design, the listing agent was hired to get the best price they could for the seller. So exactly. While you might be thinking you're getting a deal or a break, in the big picture, it makes more sense to have a professional negotiating on your best interest on your behalf. Yeah.
And it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Have a great weekend.